Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Challenge All Stars 4, Episode 10 review by your faves. And if we're not your faves, we will be. Reality Unloaded podcast. It's your girl, Keeks.
I'm Lina D.
And I'm Brandon.
And again, we're Reality Unloaded podcast, where we unload some of your favorite reality TV shows. And one of our favorites is the Challenge All Stars 4, Episode 10. So we don't have much to cover with this episode. We have a lot more drama off the show to cover, though, at the end. But before we start and get into it, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, share, comment, engage with us, get into all of it. Follow us on Instagram at Reality Unloaded Pod and on TikTok. And just make sure to stay up to date with us. So we're going to get into the episode, and we started off with Cara winning her star back, right? We're happy. Good for her, but sad that Cam left. And, again, not much happened. Lina, I know you want to get into a little bit of Leroy packing up Cam stuff, sending it back to her in that relationship.
Yeah, let's get into it. So honestly, the first part of the episode before the challenge, there's really not much drama. We're just kind of seeing different perspectives on where the game is by the competitors. We're talking about star statuses, people really fighting to get their star. Like you said, Keeks, the episode opens up with Leroy kind of reflecting on Cam's departure while he's pumping her breast milk. Girl definitely was pumping this season, I have to say. But Leroy really acknowledges that he has to work hard to protect his star. Like he's, the finals around the corner. He needs to do it for his family. And basically, again, we're going to see the different competitors talking about how they either need to get a star or they need to keep their star. What did you guys think about Leroy?
I thought definitely,
go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, definitely. Like, if I was Leroy, okay, my girl is gone. So somehow we got to get this money because, like they said, they need money for the house, the marriage, all of that stuff. So that just for me, if I was Leroy, would give me extra motivation to want to just be on top from here on out.
Yeah, and if there's anything I can comment on is how expensive a wedding is. So I get it, Leroy. That $250,000 would come in clutch. What'd you think, Keeks?
No, I mean, yeah, I don't know how Leroy's really gonna survive, and we see a little bit of that again without Cam, that he puts himself at risk because he's not performing well in the dailies. But seeing the fact that like they were really freezing Cam's milk like that and having to ship that back home, like honestly, shout out to production on that for supporting Cam in that. And being
even
flexible.
Giving her that resource, to do so.
Yeah, I will say that. And she did, we'll touch about it a little bit later. But she went on Johnny's podcast and she had mentioned that production really would stop filming to allow her to pump, which I think is really considerate of them. And hopefully just encourages more moms or new moms to get back onto the show. So yeah, really, really sad to see Cam go. I don't know how Leroy's gonna do it.
Yeah, best of luck, Leroy. I actually am very much rooting for him, so I hope to see him perform. But yeah, we continue throughout the episode. Again, we have a kissy moment with Laurel and Nicole celebrating that they're still together. Laurel says something very interesting, that she's consistently reminding herself that Cam's departure is not her fault, but instead it's Cam's fault for coming in the bottom group. And this is this flippy floppy with Laurel that I'm not a huge fan of. Sis, you said something. You gave your word that you were going to go down, and that's the only reason she allowed herself. Otherwise, we know Killer Cam would have come up with a master plan. Laurel with the flip-flop this season, y'all, I'm over it.
I think we all are. And to be honest, I think this is like something to make her feel better about the fact that she chickened out. Let's be real. She chickened out because she even said sometime in this episode, it wasn't a physical elimination, so I didn't want it. But
Yep.
I'm sorry, when do we get to pick and choose what way we want to go against an opponent? Because at the end of the day, you need your star to run this final, and you don't really have any chances left. So why not just go down there, face Cara in any game? If you swear that you're better than her in so many facets of the challenge, why just rely on this physical competition that you know you could beat her in because you know that you're bigger than her essentially? I don't know.
Yeah.
That to me rubbed me the wrong way because I'm like, I always thought of Laurel as like a great competitor. So when she said that, I was like, I don't know. What about you, Keith?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with your sentiments wholeheartedly. Like I felt like she said that to pretty much make herself feel better, because at the end of the day, Laurel's not going to admit that she, instead of eating Cara's ego, ate her own words.
That
Ultimately,
part.
that's what it came down
That
to.
part.
Like, you couldn't say much, and I think we would have respected it a lot more. Not saying that we have to respect it, but I feel like the fandom would have respect her decision if she just said what it was. Like, yeah, I did say that, and I'm backing out on it. And I do agree with her sentiment as well that like Cam could have controlled that if she actually did not end up in the bottom. That is fair, but you again did all that talking for what? And it's not like you told one person, you told the whole house. So it just also makes the house question if you're ever going to do that again. Like, look, everybody's calling her a flip flopper. Like, I would not want to be called that so close to the end either.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely fair. And it's funny because we'll see later on in the episode someone actually sticking to their word, because that meant so much to them. And they reference like, I'm not going to be another Laurel. So Laurel, you kind of created a stamp for yourself, and I don't think it's one that you should be too proud of, to be honest, especially with your history on the challenge. But yeah, we kind of jump around. Again, we see Jay and Ace and Cara talking about the clock ticking, that, you know, Jay and Ace really need to go into an elimination and win their ticket to the final. We have Veronica, who's talking about being blessed that she still has a star and really wants the final to be around the corner. We see Ryan talking to Veronica and Laurel and saying that, you know, he's willing to go into an elimination, and if he can choose anyone, it would be Jay, which again is very interesting and foreshadowing. We'll talk about that more. I think something that's really interesting that happens is we start to see Adam praise Steve in this episode, at least at the beginning. He goes about talking about how good of a guy Steve is and a husband. He talks about their 22-year friendship that started on Road Rules, and how really this season they're kind of pushing each other to be better. What do you guys feel about these different commentaries from these competitors?
So in the beginning, I was like, oh, this is like nice. Like, you know, because again, they've known each other for 22 years, I think you said, and it started on Road Rules before the challenge even existed, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, that's a long history to have. So, again, granted, they might not have been best of friends, but to know someone for 22 years is a long time. So, like, even if I, for example, came onto the challenge and I knew someone for that amount of time, I would try to do my best to like look out for that person, because at the end of the day, I've known you for the longest. But we kind of see that shift later on, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I'll pass it to Keeks for her thoughts.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny how everybody was, giving their praises, talking with, all this like everybody had all this courage in the confessionals, they were speaking highly of one another. Ryan was, I don't know the difference from that moment to him obviously noticing that Jay could outperform him in a lot of things, because I was like, it was the same thing. he's been outperforming you all season. And then Adam, I thought was interesting because it's like, okay, like clearly y'all should be sticking to one another, and he hasn't done anything to backstab you in any way. So I'm hoping you continue to support him. But again, we will see that later on. And the only ones that were consistent is Veronica being blessed. I don't know how she hasn't been sent down. And Derek, obviously, being consistent in his friendship and love for Ryan.
Keeks, can you please talk about that moment where they're sitting outside and he's talking about the retirement home?
Oh, yes. Derek pretty much calls Ryan his sis, his good sis, and that if he ends up winning the money, he's going to end up getting a house for him and his good Judies. And they're going to go back to Phoenix with 9 cats and Kiki, spill the tea, whatever the hell else. And yeah, that Derek pretty knows that he's on a mission to get a star and he needs to get a star ASAP. But we really don't see much of Derek. So I was even surprised that he got a confessional because he's been in the back burner in a way. But like still doing very well. I just don't feel like they're giving him a much camera time overall.
He's been like a silent killer. You don't
yes,
really see
yes,
him.
a dark horse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I thought that was very cute, y'all. I mean, listen, if you guys want to retire with me to Phoenix, 9 cats, maybe a dog in there too.
I can't do the 9 cats, but I can. I'm allergic.
Oh,
unfortunately for all the let me not say that before the cat lovers.
I'm not a cat person either. I'm not even gonna. Lina knows.
I have 3. I do love them. I know. I have 3 little kitties. Wow. But listen, I would settle for pups if that's something we want to do. But I can see us retiring and talking, spilling the tea. Subscribers, you may see us at 90 years old still making these podcasts. Tune in.
Baby,
but anyway.
I hope not. Oh my God. Yep,
come on, you don't want to spill. You don't want to spill some tea with your friends? Come on.
What tea are we going to talk about? The bingo games or something? I don't know.
Girl, those grandmas get real. They get
You're right.
There's drama there.
At the bingo.
Let's not get into that. But we get into the daily challenge. Roll with it. Brandon, break down the game rules for us.
So we kind of know roll with it as an individual game, right? And each player basically starts in their own shopping cart, and they each have a lasso to basically pull themselves from one barrel to the next. And the goal is to kind of get across the racetrack to your individual colored star and get across to the finish line. And TJ explains basically that the first man and women to get across will then be in the winning group. The last 6, being 3 men and 3 women, are the losing group. And he then explains that this is going to be a men's elimination. So I thought this was a cool challenge. It was funny because Ace actually said that this is his challenge to win because he's a country boy and he's done stuff like this before. So I think him specifically, I was excited to see how he could use some of the skill sets back at home that he has to try to advance him to potentially get his star in the end. But what did you guys think?
I mean, those challengers were struggling. I'm not gonna lie. They was not looking like they were having the best of times. I mean, listen, I'm guilty of like jumping on the back of a car and like, pushing myself off. So I know they're not the most easy to maneuver. But I did definitely think it was funny when Veronica was like, I've never been lassoed in my life. When the hell would I lasso? And I'm like, sis, accurate. Like,
same.
Have any of you lassoed?
No.
When the hell would I lasso?
Right.
No.
In what free time?
But like where? Right. Why would I lasso here? Like, no.
Yeah. No, but they were definitely struggling.
They were struggling. Yeah. I personally, I didn't really like this daily. I just felt like it was very gimmicky. It gave CBS, it gave Big Brother, to be honest. I really did not like it. I was just like, what is happening? And what I thought was even weirder is when people actually play. Well, we'll talk about it when people actually place. But yeah, I didn't think it was that fun to watch, because then ultimately, like, Jay comes up with the strategy to just push himself and not even use the lasso. And I said, why isn't everybody doing that? And
Which
if
was
it was that,
so it was so smart. I literally saw him
mm-hmm,
do that and I was like, if I was there, I would do the same shit. Like,
mm-hmm,
it was just so smart for him to be like, well, I didn't hear in the rules that we needed to pull ourselves across with this rope. So I'm just going to push myself. And it was so genius. And
mm-hmm,
he ends up being the
winning.
victorious one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, shout
I'm
out to him for
surprised.
thinking that.
I'm surprised the other challengers didn't copy, like Leroy, Adam, Steve.
I
Like you
think they
still see them
did,
trying.
but they couldn't catch up. They tried to,
You
like,
know
they
what it
were
Okay.
also
too far
is?
behind.
It might have been to his advantage because he is smaller than the guys. So, like, for him to push himself or propel himself to the next peg or whatever it
Like the barrels,
was
yeah.
probably easier. Yeah, the
Mm.
barrels was easier than a lot of these other guys. So
I guess what had them stump was that first one, though, too.
Yeah,
Because I think they had to lasso themselves in, and then they
from
could
the
push
first
themselves.
one.
Yeah. But in general, I mean, I just felt like people should have picked it up faster. But then again, carts again, they are finicky. They do whatever the hell they want, and I'll be quick to return the cart back as soon as the wheel gives me some issues. So I can't say much. Like, I would probably struggle just as much if I was doing this one. But again, I just felt like it was very CBS coded, and I was like, return to sender, please.
look, my ass would have been on the floor. I'm not pushing my big ass
I
in the
w-
cart. Like,
I would have tumbled for sure.
we both would
Absolutely.
have been on the floor. Like, what the hell is
Correct.
this?
Correct. Like next episode. Okay. But yeah, so Ace is close to winning. However, Jay kind of pulls with the good strategy ahead. He gets the win for the guys. Then we see Laurel come in second. She gets the female win. She's talking about how she loves these games. She feels like she's on a playground. Makes sense. Laurel, you've been real childish this season. It all works out for you, honey. But we then get to the order of the wins. Keeks, break it down to us. Who was on the bottom?
Oh, I'm sorry. Not you saying that, calling her childish. Wow.
Oops.
I'm dead. Okay, so the order is the bottom group is Flora, no surprise. Avery, Veronica, Ryan, Steve, Leroy. And then the winners, of course, are Laurel and Jay. And then the middle group ends up being Ace, Nicole, Cara, Derek, Adam. And I just want to say something. TJ giving them the medal, the wreath, and then having the stand. If this is what y'all are doing for this gimmicky ass game, what are y'all gonna do for the actual final? Or
It
like
was
the
no, it was given Pride Month. It was given camp. I was enjoying it. All right.
Yeah, it was cute. I'll give them that. It definitely was giving camp. It was giving
It
me
gave
it was
April Field
theater.
Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh my god, no wonder you love Big Brother, because that's exactly what it gave. Like, honestly.
Me and Big Brother have a love-hate relationship, but we'll talk about that
I
later.
know,
But
but it's it.
Offline.
But like, be honest, does it not give Big Brother? I feel like it was Big Brother coded.
it definitely did. It definitely did. But I think the one thing I like about this season so far is the little cheesiness that like we're getting
Yeah,
from a lot of people and a lot of episodes. I think
and
even with
TJ,
TJ. Yeah, like
because we get a moment during the elimination that was so funny. But
right. So I think like those little cheesy moments just make it way different from like, the regular seasons.
that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Very
so are we
true.
surprised by the winners? Are we surprised by the middle group, the bottom group?
No, I think it all really kind of makes sense. I mean, I feel like this challenge was really kind of difficult because I feel like it doesn't really take much skill, like unless you know how to lasso, like, and I think most of them did not. So I think it was a big toss up.
Yeah.
But
It
again,
levels
shout
the
out
playing
to
field.
Jay. Yeah, exactly. So shout out to Jay for kind of coming out of the box, but it makes sense. It lines up.
And honestly, I just feel like Stephen Leroy, y'all being the star holders, y'all should have done way more to try to avoid getting in the bottom. Like at least middle group, at least.
Well, so I don't know if you noticed, Steve almost made it in the middle. Like him and Adam were neck and neck. But Steve had said that he much rather be in the bottom group and have to defend his star and go into the elimination versus be in the middle group and someone just take his star. So I think he purposely, once he got to the star section, was a little slower, and then Adam took the lead, because I do remember that sentiment.
Yeah, but I think if I'm thinking about it correctly, right? I don't know if that was the best strategy because there's I feel like there's other people that are star holders that are men that would get come for first, you know? Like I don't necessarily think, and I could be
He was the
wrong,
biggest target.
he was the biggest target for the guys, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Fair. Well, either way, Jay made it loud and clear at, the challenge that he wants to go in no matter what. And they make a statement where him and Ryan kind of exchange looks, and it's almost like a silent understanding that they both want to go into the elimination. So we kind of start the second half of the episode with Jay really talking to Ace about how he's had this friendly competition with Ryan all season. So it really makes sense that they go against each other. He said that Ryan actually said to him, like, hey, let's have fun tonight. So there's almost this mutual understanding that it's going to be Ryan and Jay, at least so we think. And then Ryan and Jay are talking about being called ocelots, these smaller females. What did we think about that?
I never heard ocelot so many times in my life.
I'm a big animal lover, so when they said ocelot, I was like, oh my god, the nerd in me kind of like played out. But yeah, I mean, I get it because they're not these bigger feline creatures like a lot of the competition around them. They're like a lot of the smaller agile guys that are there. So like their depiction of themselves, calling themselves ocelots, is it works. It fits.
Yeah. So again, we're expecting this to kind of happen. And then Ace comes in and keeps talking about this promise he made to Ryan. So he's talking about this promise to Cara. He's talking about this promise to Jay. Like we see it throughout multiple conversations. So Ace actually ends up having a conversation with Ryan and asking him if he's ready to go into elimination. And Ryan, interestingly enough, says he is not and does not want to go in against Jay. What did you think about it, B?
So this to me is like where it gets kind of weird because I feel like you have the opportunity to get your star. You talk to this person about playing it out where the ocelots were gonna like go in, make it a fun game, and the best man just wins. And I think Ryan really got like cold feet in a sense where he was just like, you know what, maybe there is a chance for me to survive this after if I don't have to go in and get a star and just play it safe. Do I think it was the smartest move? We'll see, because again, we don't know. He made a good point. We don't know if the final star holders are going to be the only ones. And they made a point where TJ stopped saying 6 players. So again, we'll see, but I don't know if in this moment it was the smartest move.
I think the one thing that I have to say is with these eliminations, you don't have to be the strongest to win. Like, I think that there is definitely been a lot of equalizer in these eliminations. So I feel like the fear that because Ryan kept saying that Jay was a lot more physical, he's the strongest guy there. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win the elimination. And we've seen that over and over again. What do you think, Keeks?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really surprised that like the fact that Ryan got away with this, to be quite honest. Like
Yeah.
I'm just surprised in general. Cuz I get it, like with Jay, I mean at the end of the day, Jay made that executive decision and we'll talk about it a little bit further. But I was just surprised that Ryan was really able to maneuver his way out of this regardless if he got cold feet or not. Um I just felt like why wasn't there more pushback either? Because just as much as like Leroy wasn't performing well, right? Or Steve wasn't performing well, neither was Ryan.
Yeah.
And Leroy and Steve at least have gone into elimination. So that was just like my biggest takeaway of this moment in general. And of course, like we'll dive into it a little bit deeper, but yeah, that was just my main takeaway. I'm like, why are y'all just letting him be safe? Like it doesn't
And I
matter.
don't and I still don't understand like the fear, like you need to go into eliminate or you need a star to run this final. At least that's what they know so far. And it's like, what is everyone waiting for at this point? Like, you don't really know how many more eliminations there are. Like, I feel like everyone keeps taking this back seat, whether it's Laurel or Avery or Ryan. And it's just like, it doesn't seem to make sense. So we then kind of, again, like I said, Ace has this conversation with Ryan. Now really Ace is sticking to his promise and his story. And he's saying that he's going to support Ryan no matter what. So Keeks, you want to break down to us why Ace and Ryan have this strong relationship all of a sudden?
Yes, of course. So according to Ace, right, when they're quarantined in the hotel, obviously because this was like during pandemic time as well, since we waited so long for this to drop. And pretty much Ace explained on a caption on his Instagram stating that they didn't really show or explain his relationship with Ryan. So 2 days before the challenge filming started, All Stars filming started, his cousin, who was also a close friend of his or a best friend of his, passed away. And he was the one that always like supported him and would always be there. And then Ace ultimately said that he shouldn't have gone to Argentina, but he still went. So while they were quarantining in the hotel, Ace was pretty much going through it. He was having a really hard time. He wasn't eating. He was just pretty much losing himself. And Ryan was the challenger above him. And him and Ryan would have discussions through the windows of their hotel or like the balcony, I'm assuming, and that Ryan would pass him things or like to eat because he also again was not eating, and that he made it a promise to him that he would protect him because he felt like Ryan was his angel in that sense, or like his best friend slash cousin, protecting him during that time or just being there for him, which I understood, and I do appreciate that context from Ace. And I do feel sorry that I feel bad that he had to go through that, especially like grieving in general is a lot. It comes in waves, which may explain why Ace was sleeping everywhere, etc. You know, him being a little bit more chill and lax and just friendlier, even though we've seen that he's just a friendly guy. So that's pretty much why Ryan was so protected by Ace, and it caught a lot of people off guard because they didn't know the context of this as well. So you see like Steve, Cara, Leroy, Jay, and whoever, everybody pretty much like being surprised, like, wait, what? Since when? When did that happen? And Cara even makes a comment about it, like I wasn't aware that there was a thing between Ryan and Ace.
And also, I think it was in one of the comments in Ace's post, someone asked about it, and then Ryan had also said he wasn't even really aware of what happened. He just knew that he was like friends with Ace since he was below him, and he was just, you know, sending him stuff, little snacks and stuff. So it just goes to show like his little actions had a big impact on Ace, and I think it speaks volumes to Ace, who essentially wanted to protect him in the game because of those little moments that they had.
Yeah, Ryan is definitely a little gem, and we send Ace all the love in this healing process, and our thoughts with you in this loss and this difficult time. So yeah, so really, Ace is supporting Ryan, and he wants to support his decision and will not vote for him. Leroy is starting to get a little frustrated because he's saying that everyone is flip-flopping again. I don't think he knew the backstory of it, and now Leroy just really hopes that Jay is actually going to stick to his word and protect him. Jay has a moment where he talks to Ryan on the side and says like, hey, I'm going to go in no matter what. And I really think it's a mistake on Jay's part to keep on telling everyone he's going to go in, especially because, again, we say you never know what an elimination is going to bring. But Jay definitely is disappointed.
But did he have a choice at this point? I think Jay was in survival mode. He was just like, this is my opportunity. I finally won. Let's make a move.
Yeah, very fair. But again, like we're going to talk about it when the elimination comes about. Some eliminations are just not at, they don't play at your strengths. And in the end of the day, it's still a game for money. So I understand kind of the, Cara Maria says it. She's like, it's great to be a man of your word, but in this game, it loses you money. And that's kind of the point of going into the game. So, but we will talk about it more. We do get into nominations. Nominations are pretty quick. Keeks, break it down for us, girl.
Okay. Oh, wow. So nominations happen, and pretty much Nicole goes in and she's like, I'm voting for Ryan and Steve because that is what Jay wants. Then we have Derek that's like, I'm not saying Ryan, period, which we know. So he's like Leroy, Steve. Then we have Carl hasn't said anything yet. Adam decides to switch up on Steve and says no one should feel bad. He prefaces it with that. No one should feel bad because it's a matter of business coming down to the end. We're getting closer to the final. It is what it is kind of thing. Like, no feelings attached with these moves. But then Cara asks Ace. Ace is like, I just want to say, can I just leave it up to Leroy? And I will be honest, before knowing what Ace had shown us or told us through his Instagram caption, I did find myself annoyed by Ace because you know what you signed up for. You know what the voting, you know that voting is always going to happen. So be prepared for that. And I just felt like it was unfair to everybody else in the game to have to decide and carry that decision because Ace couldn't just decide. Like, if you were gonna protect Ryan, ultimately,
Tina's done it before, so why couldn't he?
I didn't like that either. I didn't like it either. Then,
but she did it twice.
But I didn't like it anytime.
Like, in the end of the day, it's a game. You have to give a vote. Like, you could and I think that's where the problem is when you promise too many people. Like, I understand your promise to Ryan, but you didn't make a promise to everybody else in the house. Like, you have to vote. Like, you have to voice, like, sorry, but that is the game.
And then Cara ends up voting for Leroy and Ryan. So now at this point, before Ace locks in his vote, it's 3 for Steve, 3 for Leroy, and then 2 for Ryan. I was kind of thinking like, oh, and then we get into Adam's other comment regarding Steve placing last or being in the bottom group however many times in a row. And I'm like, wait, hold on. And that he pretty much also emphasizes like wanting to make sure that 2-star holders go in because he wants to make sure that he's protected and nobody comes after his star, and at least 2-star holders, one of them gets out. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Because you had a problem when Cara did this, didn't you not?
Correct. And that's exactly the point that I was going to bring, because it was actually Cara who was like, the one person I don't want to vote for is Steve. And then Adam goes, well, he's been coming in the bottom. What happened to this 22-year friendship, sir? That went out the window real fast.
Right.
That rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, and again, we've seen Adam in a lot of his little interviews that he's been having, and he's been saying some, I don't want to say crazy stuff, but like stuff that's like contradicting a lot of the things that have happened in the house. And I think we touched on it, Lina, last episode, where we were talking about like strong women and the contradictions that happen in this game specifically. So now seeing him doing this, where he's kind of like turning his back on his friend that he's been friends with for 22 years, and again, you don't have to be close, it's just, it leaves a sour taste in my mouth. I don't know.
No, he was talking crazy. Like, I was just like, wait, hold on, because Steve has protected you. He's been with you. Like, Steve doesn't have to go in. Like, you just said at the top of the episode that you wanted to make it to the final with Steve, right? You can make that happen if you fight for it. Like, it also, like, nobody was trying to really convince anybody to change their vote. And I was like, okay, like, are y'all not gonna pitch anything? Like, we're this close. Y'all should not just be willy-nilly about a vote. And that's what really was bothering me. And then I honestly, if Ace really wanted to, considering he said this later in the elimination, oh, it should be me down there, why didn't you lock the vote between Steve and Ryan? You should have locked it. And see if TJ would have given one of y'all the opportunity to go down, or would he have gotten Jay to pick who he wanted to go down as the winner?
Keeks with the strategy.
That's actually smart.
That's a good point.
Because you could have literally been like, you know what? I'm going to vote for Ryan to lock it, to try to see if I can go down there then. Since you feel it in your heart that it's weighing so much on you, go down then. I don't know. That's why
we know TJ does not like a stalemate, so he likes a vote. So that would have been real interesting to see what would happen if it would have been.
And we would see what would happen.
Yep.
Exactly. Now we see what would happen if there's a stalemate in the game. Who's going to have the power then? Or is it going to switch up every time? Because another thing, it looks like TJ lets them do whatever the hell he wants, whatever the hell they want. Like, look at the whole thing with Nicole switching who she wanted to go against. I'm sure he would have been cool with Ace saying, yeah, I'll go down. I don't know. It's just certain things that I feel like could have gone so much better in that nomination meeting, and then it ends up being Leroy and Steve because Ace literally lets Derek decide his vote, which of course Derek's gonna take the opportunity. Why wouldn't he? So it's
he's
Leroy
protecting his sister for Phoenix. Hello.
Wait. Can I also want to say this? Jay was so funny for bringing it up to Steve and saying, oh, so Steve, what are you going to do when Adam says your name and votes you in? Are you going to take his star? And Steve, it felt like Steve was like, I didn't even think that he would do that. Because again, we're friends for 22 years.
Friendships are questionable.
Wait, can we talk about Steve's shower?
Oh,
routine?
yes.
The shower scene.
The leave-in conditioner problem. I get
the
it.
leave-in conditioner. He was like, I had this coconut scrub. I did this. I did that because I wasn't
exfoliated oil, no stress. Listen, I get it. I'd be mad too.
I'd be so mad. I wasted leave-in for that.
Yeah, and then he was like, I came out after, and now I feel icky because I know that something just doesn't feel right.
Yes, thank you for reminding me of that, because that was so funny. I said, bro, I get it. Like, wasting your leave-in conditioner is so annoying when you're gonna have to get wet all over again. Oh my god.
Yeah. The house did a poor switch up on him. But yeah, unfortunately, the final vote comes out to be Leroy and Steve. And then we go into the elimination. Brandon, break it down for us. Good luck with this name.
So this elimination is called Shishkastak, and there are basically two giant water
Clap it up
tanks
for
with.
Brandon.
Okay.
I'm
Now spell it.
international. I don't know about all that. But there's basically two giant water tanks with puzzle pieces at the bottom and three poles on the side. And the opponents will basically race across the stand and climb the ladders and dive into the water tanks to retrieve one puzzle piece at a time. And once they retrieve the piece, they can start building the puzzle on the corresponding colored pole to the side of the tank and then collect all of the pieces first and then start the puzzle. So this puzzle is basically composed of colored tubes that will go on the pole and have to be arranged from the darkest to the lightest shade of the associated pole color. And the first player to retrieve all of the pieces and stack them properly wins. I'll be honest, when I saw this, I was like, this is confusing. Along with the name itself, I was like, count me out. I would not want to do this. The diving part, fine. But the stacking and trying to figure out what the color coordination and darkest to lightest or lightest to darkest, I couldn't do it. But what did you guys think about it?
I'm not gonna lie, it looked fun. Like it looked like it'd be a fun like elimination to have to dive, get the pieces. I know a lot of men do suffer from different levels of being colorblind, so I can see how it definitely would be a lot more of a challenge for a male elimination. But like from my perspective, looking at the different colors, the shades were different enough that it wouldn't have been too difficult had it been a female elimination. But I could understand the difficulty because of it being a male.
I literally was getting confused. Like with the middle colors, they look the same to me.
No, literally,
Really?
they look the same. You ever go to
Yeah.
Home Depot or Lowe's and you look at the swatches
The
of
color,
paint, and
yup.
you're like,
Mm-hmm.
what is the difference?
And then someone's
between,
like, "Oh, which one's better?" You're like,
which
"It's the
one's?
same."
I'm
What's the
like,
difference?
what is the difference between sage green and forest mint or something like that? Like, I don't know. It was a lot. I was just like, what is happening?
But you know, after kind of TJ is talking about it, Ace does kind of say that he wished he could be the one to go down there. And then Leroy just kind of goes, Ace, chill out, man. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Ain't nobody dying. You
Chill
voted.
out.
Yeah. And
Like,
I have to say, like, go for it, Keeks.
No, the deprecation, like it's just like, okay, we get it. You feel bad. Yeah. You're not down here though.
But Ace is just that kind of person. He's just a good person. I think we don't see a lot of good people in this game, and I think he's just a very genuine good person. So
I'm not gonna lie.
That's where I think he was coming from.
I actually thought he was gonna cry when he like because when Leroy was like, oh, like no one's gonna die, whatever. He was like, well, it feels like it, and like he looked down, and I'm like, oh my god, is Ace gonna fucking shed a tear?
Oh my
like,
god,
he probably would.
I'm sorry, but Ace was giving Eeyore of the challenge. I was like, oh my god,
he yeah.
Oh, Ace, it's okay. Stop beating yourself up.
Eeyore was my favorite character on Winnie the Pooh, so there's that.
Oh, okay, Brandon. Moving on.
Yeah,
correct.
Wow. I think there's a common theme here, Brandon. Let's
put it out there. Brandon is a Cara Maria fan. If you weren't aware so far, Brandon is also an Ace fan. If you're not sure, so Ace and Cara Maria. If you see this, Brandon loves you. He appreciates you.
I respect them. Okay.
Yes. We respect them as well. But yes, there's an admiration Brandon has for y'all. So it's real.
Oh man. So it's funny because Jay goes into talking about how this is probably the worst elimination possible for him. You know, he broke his nose, so he struggles with holding his nose underwater. He's partially colorblind, excuse me. But Jay says he is a man of his word. And he ends up when TJ asks him, "Are you going to come down?" He says that he's going to take Leroy's place, and he says he doesn't want to pull a Laurel. He says it in a like a confessional, not kind of down in the elimination, but I'm sorry, Ace. I with this one part of the game when Laurel called you a rookie, like a rookie move, I have to agree with that. Like, I don't think this was the best move for you, knowing how much difficulties you would have had with it. Do we
Oh,
respect his decision?
you mean Jay? You said
Sorry.
Ace.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I meant Jay. Sorry, I meant Jay.
Yeah, I mean,
What
I
do we think
respect
about the
it.
decision?
I
Yeah?
respect it as well, but I did think that like it was okay if you sat this one out, bro. Like it's okay, because again, with his difficulties, like and everything, I'm like, okay, so are you trying to damage your nose even more? Like,
I
I was a
think
little worried about
either
that.
way, kind of like a Jordan. He wanted to prove people out there, to people out there that he can do something that is not easy like other people for him. So I give him kudos for that because again, he could have chickened out like a certain individual and said no, but he decided, look, we're nearing the end. Let me just go down, play it out. Whatever happens, happens, and I'm gonna put on my best performance that I could. So kudos to him.
Yeah, good for him for sticking to his word. Honestly, you don't see that often on this show. Do I think that it was the smartest move for him? Not necessarily, but again, a game move that I do respect. And that would have been so sad to see Leroy potentially go out like that back to back, because I do think that Steve could have potentially won this against Leroy as well, considering Leroy is also not the best swimmer. So I do
Yes.
think about like the fact that he may have struggled like going down there to get the little
And you
pieces.
Pieces.
you
Yeah.
also see Leroy being really, really, really appreciative of him.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
he was
Yes.
like, wow, you really held your word. Like, I respect
Yeah.
that. So
I think the whole house respected it. And I think all the viewers also respected Jay. I just kind of feel bad because he was really doing great this season.
Yeah.
And I wish this wasn't the elimination that took him out, you know, like, especially because he had the option and was able to make a decision to go in or not.
Before we move forward further, I did want to comment about like the intro to the elimination where TJ and Steve and Jay are like playing with the camera, and TJ like takes off his jacket and everything.
So cute.
it's giving again Pride Month. I was living.
So good.
Or like when Steve was like,
Very camp.
like it was
Yes.
so cute. I loved all of it.
He was I effing the camera. He said, "Okay, you want to get it on? We could get it on." And I was like,
Any
wow.
challenge producers, if you're watching, like, can you bring that to the main show too? Because like, give us some sort of like fun.
Yeah, it's very intense on the challenge main flagship show.
Yeah.
But yeah, so ultimately, like we see that Steve has a strategy where Steve pretty much pulls out all the pieces out of the tank, and you see like Jay obviously struggling with his situation, with him not being able to differentiate the pieces and the colors. But Steve is like, I'm just gonna get all of the pieces and just figure out the puzzle later. And then ultimately leads to Steve winning. And again, it's really sad to see Jay go, especially because he wasn't that far off. He had like maybe one piece to get, but considering again how good he's done this season, it was just sad that like he didn't take the win. And not saying that I wanted to see Steve go. I do feel like he also deserves his spot in the finale compared to how he's been performing in the eliminations, not the dailies. But yeah, all the best to Jay. Like honestly, come back stronger and better than ever. And you redeemed yourself. Like I forgot about the whole eating situation from whatever
And
season.
someone also brought this up. I think it was on either TikTok or Twitter. I forgot where. They were basically like, I don't know why y'all are so surprised that Jay is doing so good in these challenges, because he was actually doing good in all of the challenges on the original season that he was on. It was just that drink that he couldn't drink. So again, I think Jay did amazing this season. I think I grew like a newfound like appreciation for him that I didn't know I would have. And I'm glad that he came back on to show us why he is a true competitor, because I really do think in this group of men, he was one of the best. So please come back. I think I would love to see you on another challenge, because that drive that you had this season, I would love to see again in future seasons.
Yeah, and TJ called him the most improved. Nicole was very emotional with the loss. I know Leroy also felt really bad because he from personal experience knows what it feels like to be eliminated very close to the final. He knows that Jay kind of took his place. So I think all of the house really kind of felt bad for Ace going home. And yeah, so I mean, best of luck to not Ace. I keep saying Ace. I meant Jay going
Lina,
home.
you want Ace to go home?
I know, Ace, it's all love. I don't know what's going on. You're on my mind today. But no, everyone felt bad for Jay going home. Steve now gets the option to, he already has a star. So the question is, what is he going to do? So Steve decides to steal a star from Adam and give it to his friend Ace.
Yes.
And I have to say, the one thing I have to add to that, Flora calls Ace again that undercover agent, and she says he strikes again because look, this is for a second time that Ace now has a star and had to do absolutely nothing for it. So very interesting.
Yup. People are just getting handed stars left and right, and Ace was handed a star now twice, right? Yeah, now twice.
Yes, it's the second time, yeah.
And yeah, I love the fact that Steve took Adam's star, considering he voted him in, and that's your number one. But then we see Adam get all mad and flustered in the confessional and pretty much says that his relationship and friendship with Steve is dead and that he could be his number one, but with that number, he could sit on it and spin and cause Steve a whole bitch and everything. And I'm like, hold on. Where is this energy coming from, Adam? I thought this was your number one.
I ain't like that. I did not like that. I was like, first of all, you giving this in the confessional, give it in person, because all of a sudden Adam is a brand new person.
Hold on. Let's get through everything that Adam says. So he says that Steve is going to have a false sense of victory since he went against someone with a disadvantage. So basically that Steve should not feel proud of this win. He says that Steve has no friends in the house or at home. Adam says that he will never answer a phone call from Steve and will delete every text. Adam goes as far as to say Steve is dead to him, gives him the finger, and calls him an asshole. Guys,
and a bitch.
How dramatic. And a bitch. How dramatic is this reaction?
It's so dramatic because at the end of the day, Adam, you betrayed your friend who in the beginning of the episode, you were like, oh, 22 years. That's like a close friend of mine, almost like a brother, blah, blah, blah. I'm paraphrasing, so he probably didn't say that. But again, you were basically saying that this guy was close to you. And then now this guy that you voted for to go in is retaliating by saying, I'm going to take your star and you got to figure out how to get it back. He didn't say anything about your personal life. He didn't say anything about having no friends, nothing. So for you to say, oh, sit, spin on this finger, do all of it, like it was, I didn't like it. And you're too grown for that. I'm sorry.
And let's quote yourself. It's a business decision. We're too close to the final. So
That part.
No
it was
notes.
sad. Yeah, so we kind of end on that sour note with Adam, Keeks, who are our final star holders of episode 10.
Our my mouth just gave up on me. Ace, Leroy, Steve, Veronica, Nicole, and Cara are all the final star holders of this episode. Again, this is episode 10. We have 2 episodes to go. There might be just one more opportunity before there's before the final to get a star at this point. But I'm again very surprised that Veronica has been sitting on this star for this long.
She's been keeping quiet on the low. If she keeps doing this, she'll be good.
So I thought that was very interesting. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy that Steve did that though. Like I'm like, yeah, Steve, take the damn star. Oh, and then when I do want to say this, when Steve gives Ace the star, he's like, "Oh, I don't deserve it, man." And I'm like, oh, Ace,
please.
But again, just take the star. He's being humble.
You could just say thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for being humble, Ace.
You could also say thank you, but I don't know if I deserve it. Like, I don't know. I think Ace is staying true to who he is, and I appreciate it.
That's very true.
Fair.
That's very true.
Very fair.
I agree with that.
I have to say though, overall, the episode, I kind of give it like a 5, y'all. I wasn't that entertained. I think there was kind of glimpses of like question mark, like what's happening with Adam off the edge. I thought the elimination was a lot of fun. Wasn't a huge fan of the daily challenge myself either. What are we thinking? There wasn't much drama.
It's because it was a men's elimination.
Yeah.
And the women are carrying the season because we didn't touch on any drama that was happening between the women. But I was okay. Like the first half of the episode, you lost me. But the second half, obviously, like after nominations, etc., seeing people flip on one another, that's when it got more entertaining. But yeah, it's definitely one of the lower rated episodes for me this season. It's giving filler, but it's fine. How about you, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. I think the beginning of the episode, I wasn't like, oh my God, this is going to be a good episode. But once we got to like where Jay went in and then he had a disadvantage and we were like basically on the edge of our seats, like, is he going to do this? And then we have the Steve and Adam drama going on. Then I was like, okay, the guys are providing. Like, but other than that, I'd give it like a 5.5 maybe. Like Keeks said, the girls are carrying.
Yeah,
carrying for sure.
And that's our recap of the Challenge All Stars for episode 10. Keeks, I think we have some fun back drama that we want to talk about, though. No?
Yes. So,
production.
Yeah. So there's just a lot of things that we're missing, honestly. So a lot of these challengers, they're going on people's podcasts, they're doing interviews, etc. And one of them, since it's not as intense, but pretty much Jay just got interviewed. He did his exit interview. And in his exit interview, he had pretty much said that the toxicity between Laurel and Nicole was much more intense that we saw. That yes, like certain things that Cara was saying was very accurate in terms of like them going back and forth, having these arguments, you know, him consoling Nicole and then him going to the bathroom and coming back, and Laurel and Nicole are there making up and cuddling in bed. But then they go back to arguing and they're blowing up in each other's faces. They had to separate them multiple times. And that he's never experienced a toxic relationship as that. So I can only imagine how stressful it was for the housemates to deal with that type of relationship and dynamic in the house. And that, yes, it was very weird that Laurel kept like going to Cara consoling her, and then lashing out on her when she was doing that repeatedly. It wasn't just once or twice. Like, this was an ongoing thing throughout the house. So it's crazy seeing that we didn't see how bad it got. Obviously, I'm sure they want to protect everybody in some sort of way. They can only do so much protecting. But I did find it interesting that Jay was like, this is one of the worst living arrangements I've ever witnessed in my life. So that just
And
says a lot.
it kind of goes to show to you how, like, when Cara was, she just had so much like resentment in that moment towards Nicole. Why
Mhm.
she probably had that resentment, because again, Jay is saying like, oh, you didn't see it, but Laurel was basically crying on her shoulder like every other night. So if I was a friend and I had to deal with this, I'm not gonna like the person that, you know, is the person that is hurting my friend or acquaintance in that moment.
Yeah.
I have to say though, that really adds my frustration in the episode where Laurel blows up on Cara Maria and has the audacity to say, "You know nothing." Because if you're telling me you're crying on her shoulder every single day, you're trusting her, she is your source of relief in the house. For you to go and turn around on her and like shatter her in front of like all these people when she was defending you, she was looking after you. Laurel could have been just as toxic to Nicole. I don't know their dynamic, but in that moment, Cara was defending Laurel against Nicole's toxicity. And Laurel didn't see that at all. Like, to me, that really kind of, if I was Cara Maria, I don't think I could recover a friendship with Laurel after that, to be honest.
Agreed. Like, and
Yeah.
again, like, we don't know the
The full
depth that
story.
these people have with
Mhm.
each other, but I do know that like Laurel ended up moving at a certain point by Cara Maria. I think was it Montana that she lived in or
I
wherever?
think they live together.
Yeah, like they live together with each other. So yeah, they fight like if you've ever had a sister, you
Yeah.
fight with them and you say hurtful things to them. But yeah, I mean, I get it. I see it on camera and I get it. That's why I don't not like Laurel. I just wish Laurel would literally look back on herself and say, "Wow, I was kind of wrong in that situation," and not repeat it multiple times over and over again, because we've watched multiple seasons where this has happened. So
Yeah, it's just, you could tell that it was definitely like impeding on the overall dynamic of the house as well. Just, it's too much. Like, to hear it from Cara, because obviously she was being vocal about it, but Jay saying like, no, Cara was in the right to say all those things because I was also dealing with it on Nicole's end. It just says a lot. So yeah, I was just like, wow, okay, so we missed that. We are not seeing that as much. Obviously we see some get a little bit of it, but not as intense. Another thing that came out of one of the podcast interviews, so Cara goes on Challenge Mania with Derek, and I think his co-host name is Scott. And pretty much she gives her side as to why her relationship with Cam is not what we assume it to be, or not how we perceived it to be. And I just want to play the clip. Before we go into this, I'm going to try to be as balance with my opinions on
Impartial.
either impartial, correct? Yes, there. Thank you. As much as possible. But I do want to start it off by like, please do not send hate to any of these people at all. Nobody is out here commenting, putting hate comments, going out of their way, giving them death threats to anybody on this show. But to the Cara and Cam stands, both sides need to chill. Like, there's no need to be wishing death or the worst on these people. Like, they don't deserve that. We don't know the depths of their relationships, like Brandon had said. And at the end of the day, this happened over a year ago. Obviously, them seeing themselves and seeing certain conversations is going to wound up those feelings again. But no need for you to send hate. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, chill the hell out. But I'm going to play this clip of Cara on Challenge Mania explaining something, and then we will get into Cam's response, which I was very surprised that she even responded. So I'm going to play the audio. Hold on. Don't play me now.
It is a very interesting exchange.
Yeah, if it doesn't play, I'm just gonna... Let's see. Okay.
So we're going to basically listen to a Cara kind of talking about some situations that...
for putting her in that position that she was just in on this episode when, you know, outside of the show and even before this, Cam, me and Paulie, we had fans when Cam was pregnant with Kingston. We had fans coming up to us being like, hey, why didn't you go to her baby shower? Aren't you and Cam friends? Why weren't you there for the baby shower? And we were there 2 days before the rest of the cast came out for their photo ops for Cam's baby shower. Me and Paulie flew out. I treated Cam to a spa day, whatever, you know, everything she wanted. We treated them to dinners, got them baby gifts. And Leroy, which was hurtful, was like, we can't take any pictures or tell anybody we're with you because, you know, Johnny will get mad and stuff like that. And this was when we were not popular to be around. This was when we were persona non grata. So when we came out as a genuine, you know, extension of friendship and love and support and excitement for them with their new journey and what they're on, and I've always been supportive of Kim and Leroy. I've always been their number one fan. We came out, we did that, and they wouldn't even...
Okay. So that's what Cara says, right? And she said this about a week ago on their podcast. I want to say, yeah, almost a week ago. And honestly, like, this caused obviously some commotion within the fandom. Where like, what? Like, that's insane. Are Leroy and Cam gonna say something? Like, that's completely unexpected. That's fucked up. And yes, it is fucked up. Like, hearing Cara's side, like, that is grimy. Why would you invite, or like, I'm coming through to support you and then you don't want to be seen with me? Okay. But then, of course, the challenge fandom, they're going to do their research. And they find that there's a little bit of gaps in Cara's story in terms of the dates. Again, this is back in 2022. And this is, again, when Cam was pregnant. And again, Cara did not make it to the baby shower. She had another engagement the day of the baby shower. They were there 2 days prior. And fans actually found that she was booked somewhere else because they had asked those questions as well. And they also posted, or at least posted screenshots of Leroy and Paulie posting each other in their stories because Leroy gave Paulie a haircut, etc., whatever, right? So now Cam has had the opportunity to respond because she's on Johnny Banana's podcast, and she calls Cara a flat out liar. And I was surprised by this. This is shaking up the challenge fandom Twitterverse a little bit. I will say, were you guys expecting her to respond? Because I did not expect that.
I did not. I did.
I did.
But I'm glad she did.
And I definitely expected Cam to respond because I'll be honest with you, when I first heard Cara's like take on the podcast, one thing that really struck with me is when she said that Cam and Leroy weren't going to post because they were afraid of bananas. One thing I've seen about Cam throughout every season she showed up is she is never afraid of anybody. And she's never going to change her persona for a specific person. Leroy, I might believe because I've seen his relationship with bananas, but not Cam. So I was not surprised that Cam responded because I felt like it was a pretty. It brought Cam's character into question, and I don't think she would have taken that.
Yeah. What about you, Brandon? What do you think?
No, I mean, I was surprised that she answered because just I saw her go on live answering questions after her elimination. And it kind of seemed like right then and there she was like, look, I'm on my live, I'll answer any questions that you guys have. And she did mention on her live that, you know, she doesn't have any animosity towards Cara. She's fine with Cara as far as she knows. And they were just playing different games. And just the way that she was answering, I didn't expect her to go on another podcast and like talk about it. So when she did, I was surprised, but I was also happy because let's air it out. Why not?
Yeah, I agree because you had mentioned that to me, and I was also surprised too. But I guess obviously Cara put the battery in her back, and she said, "Oh, you wanna bring this up? Well, I'm gonna clarify and say my side of the story." So again, Cam went on Johnny's podcast, and I'm going to play a clip of what she said because again, I was in shock. I said, "Oh, this is what we're doing. We are really bringing the mess." So this is Cam's response.
Freaking liar. Let me we're gonna talk about this specific situation first. Please, can we attack this? Yeah, please. Okay. You have the mic. Okay, so we invited down there like so many people on the cast. Ooh, you were there. You know, we had tons of cast members there. So her and Polly were absolutely invited to our
Keeks, can we put it closer to the mic and maybe make it a little louder?
You know, we can't come to the baby shower because we have to go somewhere in Florida. For me, I personally think maybe, you know, Cara or whoever, maybe they just didn't want to see people on the cast, right? Cool, but Polly and I, we've been friends for years. Like I've known him since my first season, since like I literally go back for years with Polly. So what's crazy to me is she's like, oh well, we weren't that popular at the time. First of all, what does that have to do with me? You get what I'm saying? Like, they have visited us in Houston before, and I opened up my home to them. I was like, hey, y'all don't even have to get a hotel. You can stay in my home. I opened up my home to you. You get what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I remember when you came over to our house for the baby shower. Even you noticed the Polaroid pictures we had.
Okay, so she goes on to say that there's Polaroid pictures that they took from those 2 days that they were there, and they ended up putting those pictures on their fridge. So when Johnny came to visit, he even pointed it out, like, what the hell is Polly doing on your fridge? But they go into depth, like, why would any of them say that? And like Leroy may have thought, okay, how is this going to make Johnny feel seeing that I'm so cool with Paulie, somebody he doesn't fuck with? Like he may have said that, like, but not say in the way like, oh, we can't be seen with you. And then again, obviously with receipts, like she had emphasized, like, I don't know what exactly is Cara's intentions bringing this up and setting her up this way. And she also said something which I was like, oh, she's really going in. And I want to
get the chance to call Paulie
oh, yeah. So before I start this, so apparently after Cam gets eliminated by Cara, Cara tells Cam to please like let Paulie know what is going on, right? About the game. And apparently there was like 2 weeks left or so of the game. And Cam said, "Sure, I will do that for you." But when Cam gets back home, she's having issues latching like with her son. And to the point that she had to get a latching consultant to assist her because she was having issues taking care of her kid. And with that happening, she was just so focused on mommyhood that she didn't reach out to Paulie like Cara had asked her to. And she feels like Cara is upset about that, or at least like held that against her. And she goes on to say that Cara has not reached out to her. She hasn't reached out to her either, but Cara has seen that she has, you know, a newborn daughter or a baby daughter now, has not congratulated her, that her and Paulie do keep in touch. And we've seen Paulie in the comments. Like Paulie's in everybody's comments, really. And he's always hanging out with people. But that Paulie and her have a very strong relationship. And she explains that, like, why would we invite you into our homes if we didn't fuck with you like that in real life? And, you know, like there's pictures of obviously them being okay with hanging out with them. Like again, Paulie and Leroy, while Paulie's getting a haircut, them seeing a challenge fan and taking a picture with the challenge fan. Cara was not in the picture, but Paulie was. I don't know, maybe Cara was taking the photo. I don't know. And she goes ahead and says like she got her a $30 like monitor for the baby, but it's not like they gifted them several things. But she did say like she is grateful for the gift. It's not like she does not use the gift and isn't appreciative. But again, if she fucked with her in real life and let her stay in her home, why would she, you know, not wanting to be seen with them at all? So I want to hear your thoughts, Brandon, because you know, a lot of conflicting stories that we're listening to now.
Well, I think at the end of the day, these two people need to get in a room and talk it out instead of going on podcasts and like doing like a tit for tat situation. Because at the end of the day, it seems to us that they were close outside of the show, right? So again, why not just sit in a room, talk it out, whatever. My issue first was Cara essentially saying like stuff that she didn't have to back up. So like if I'm saying like, oh, this person said, you know, we can't take pictures, we can't do this, I'm gonna have like a text message. And maybe she might. And I'll get into that later on. But that's issue number one. Issue number two that I had with this is there might have been an instance where Leroy was maybe like joking around, like, oh, you know, we can't take pictures, blah, 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 because, you know, Bananas doesn't like you. And we know Cara, she is emotional at times. She might have taken that as something that wasn't a joke. Number three, I get the whole like Cam defending the basically the log story of like, oh, she only got me a $30 like baby monitor situation type thing. I get it. I just wouldn't have thrown the price tag in there because I feel like that's a little bit tacky. I don't agree with that.
But she threw the price tag in there because Cara said that she gave her multiple gifts.
Right.
But I get what you're saying.
And I get it. I just would have just said, like, you know, you got me a baby monitor. That was it. You didn't get me like all of the things that you're saying. I just think if that was my friend, even if we weren't close, maybe you don't know people's financial situations.
Right,
like,
right.
Yeah, we're on shows competing and we think we're all like financially stable or whatever, but maybe that was the only thing that, you know, they could have gotten at the end of the day. That was the only thing I didn't like. But at the end of the day, I think I'm looking for Cara now to respond with receipts on what she was talking about initially. And if they line up, then they line up. If they don't, then she lied. And that's that. Like,
What are your thoughts, Lena? How do you feel about the back and forth? Because I'm sure Cara will respond eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I am looking forward to Kara's response. You know, like I feel like there has been a lot of instances throughout this season. Sorry, Brandon's looks, man. If looks can kill, sweetheart. Um, but there have been a lot of instances where I personally believe with Cara Maria, and I've expressed them on the podcast. I think she's a very strong competitor. I think she's a very emotional player, but I think her emotions tend to get the best of her. You know, certain things about like things being misunderstood. To me, Cam has always been a straight shooter. You know, like that's kind of what I take out of Cam is being a straight shooter. I'm not going to side with anyone. I just find it very interesting how the pieces are starting to fall. And I find it very interesting when I start to hear a lot of trends. You know, Cara calling Brandon her number one, but Brandon saying they don't talk. Cara saying that she's so close to Cam. She was their number one supporter, but then Cam says that Cara never calls me. Trends like that start to make me question when it's more than one person saying the same story. Laurel said it too. Granted, I don't agree with the way Laurel treated Cara, but Laurel said it too. She was like, you don't talk to me. You don't ever reach out to me. It starts to kind of build a trend with Cara Maria. So I think there's a lot more question marks to her story. And yeah, I want to see the spa receipt. I want to see them all. I want to see all of these receipts. And I have to add, by the way, with the picture, there was also a picture of all four of them, of Cam, Leroy, Cara, and Paulie, that was posted as well 2 days before the baby shower that was released.
I think that one was a little bit before. I think that was like a year before. They showed the date on that, but they did find like other clips. Like they were posting each other on their stories, etc. And again, like she stayed in their home. Other things that
sorry,
she brought
you don't open your house to anybody. Like your home is your sacred place. So if you're opening your home to someone like that, you're extending love. Like, you know, that means something. So
I will also say I don't necessarily agree with people. And again, this is not me defending Cara because, again, I said I want to see the receipt. She could be a liar. I'm not defending her. I don't necessarily defend the fact that people are throwing it in her face like that. Oh, you haven't reached out to me in so and so years. But to me, I'm like, well, did you also reach out on your end? Because I think it goes both ways in a sense. Because all these people are saying stuff, but they didn't say I reached out to her. So, and again, she is what?
But I think it's being said in response to Cara Maria's reaction to things and her like exaggeration to moments. And I think that's what people are like, you don't even know me. Like you haven't reached out to me. Like it's not that they're necessarily saying like, yeah, I haven't reached out either, but it's her reaction that people are responding to.
Absolutely. But also, have you ever met an only child?
Honey, I'm engaged
because
to one. I'm engaged to one.
So like and your one is a very special one. He doesn't act like that. But I have met only children who like to live in their bubble, who don't know like, oh, like I should keep up with people because that's the way of life. Like not giving her any excuse at all. But just in my interactions with only children, it's not like us who have like brothers and sisters around and like keep up and like fight and do all this stuff and it's not dramatic and I again, I'm not giving her a benefit of the doubt. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
keep that
And
in
I
mind.
get that. And I do agree that it's a two-way street, right? Like you have to flower me, I flower you kind of thing. But I do think that we do have to take into account that this is becoming a pattern, like where again, Lina pointed out, why are you reacting so passionately, right? And such if apparently y'all don't have these strong relationships. And another thing that I felt like Cara was contradicting herself on was you're saying that you root for them, right? You're their number one fan. Okay, so then why are you bringing this up? And if that was the case, if this bothered you so-called 2 years ago, why do you take the chance to bring it up now? And is it because like you're winning the fandom over? People are excited to see you. You're playing into the storyline. Like, what's truly your angle here? Angle here. And I understand why people are questioning, like, what's the motive behind this really? Because like the fact that this baby shower is becoming a spectacle is crazy. And Cam had also
Shit, I'll
brought that up.
invite to this baby shower.
Right.
The
Cam
event
had
of the century.
Cam had made a comment and she also did not like the fact that Cara called it like a photo opportunity for other challenge people because she felt like, no, those people generally were looking forward to Leroy and I and wanted to support us and could have been there. And, you know, I also understand if Cara didn't ultimately want to be there that day because there were several other people in the room that did not like her. I also respect that. Like, go where you are appreciated, you know? But to say that, I felt like that was a little low on Cara's part because it's like, they clearly have relationships with these people and they fuck with them. So why say that it's a photo opportunity for them? Like, why would they have somebody that they don't get along with or really have a relationship with at their own baby shower?
And I also think, like, as far as or as much as Cara has grown
Mm-hmm.
from her beginning seasons, she still does a lot of things in a childish manner. And
Yes.
I can admit that. Like, as much as I am a fan of hers, like, there are some things where I'm like, okay, girl, like, you could have done
Mm-hmm.
this differently.
Yeah.
If I was her, I would have gone to the baby shower. If I didn't have something going on, I would have
Mm-hmm.
gone to the baby shower, said hi, been cordial, whatever. Because this day is not about me. This is about Cam and Leroy. So I get it. I think it could have been handled a different way. I do think ultimately they do, like I said in the beginning, need to get in a room, hash it out, because I do think there's still love there. I just think they're
Mm-hmm.
going on different platforms and speaking to one another, but not necessarily speaking to each other, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Petty, 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 petty.
Petty, petty,
Um,
petty. Yeah.
both all of them are like they're both being petty, and Cam had admitted to that on John's not John's. I'm starting to talk like Wes, like on Bananas podcast. And another thing that she did say, because I wanted to bring this up because it goes into our main critique this season so far. Production is editing everything out. Apparently Cara was going around the house telling spreading lies about her and Leroy in the house and said that Nicole came to Cam crying, saying that Cara told her that she said she's an idiot and that Cam wants to run a final against her because she's dumb. And Nicole literally came to Cam and told her that. And granted, like, we all know, I'm not taking up for Nicole, but we also see Cara calling Nicole an idiot on camera. So, you know, I'm just saying, like, it's just
I
very
want to
interesting.
know if this did happen, right? I want to know in what time this happened throughout the season. Because it like when Nicole was like coming at Cara after Laurel was like coming to
They
her and she was just frustrated.
I don't know, but
I don't know.
they need to release like a special
Espresso. Play Sabrina Carpenter right now.
No,
That's my
hey,
shit.
Siri. No. But they do need to release a special with like the backstory of this season because man,
Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's so much, but definitely go check out the podcast. Go to Challenge Mania, listen to Johnny's podcast. Listen to these people. Honestly, like go on to random podcasts. The podcast I was posting the clips from Cam talking about talking through bananas podcast at first. It was OTH podcast on Off the Hook podcast on Twitter, and they're also on Instagram. We follow them, so definitely shout out to them for putting the tea out there, because they had, again, all of us chatting it up, and there's just a lot. So definitely do your research. Let's see, hold on. Oh, someone said LOL. I don't know what that was for, Mike, but LOL back at you. Yeah, so again, that concludes this episode. We've been chatting it up. Clearly we're slurring our words. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button, share, comment, and subscribe. Hit us up on Instagram at Reality Unloaded Pod and on TikTok. And just make sure to be on the lookout for more things to come, reality TV wise. We have a lot in store. We want to talk about the traders. Hopefully, Big Brothers soon come. No guarantees on that one.
I mean, if you do have any recommendations, please let us know, because we wanna cover different shows. We just want to make sure we're covering shows that you guys want us to cover.
Right.
Let us know. Give us some recommendations, and we might.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. And yes, any and all feedback. Okay. Oh, The Mole. Lindy said The Mole. That's coming up.
Well, I like
The Mole was crazy.
The Mole was
You watched
good.
that too? Yeah. You watched that, Lina? Okay.
Yeah,
okay. So The Mole.
Okay, we could do The Mole.
Okay, that's cute.
Thank you, Lindy. That's a good suggestion.
Right. Yes. And I know people have been talking about the GOAT because they dropped all the episodes. I think it's a little bit too further out of further into the season for us to do that one. But another thing that we wanted to discuss is All Stars 5 cast. So definitely spoiler alert. Definitely want to talk about that because it already started filming. They're already out there, which is insane. They're really just pushing these things out. But yes, just be on the lookout for more things from us. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, Mike and Lindy, for interacting with us. And see you at the next one, baby. Which will be this Sunday, most likely, for Drag Race. Bye, everyone.
Bye.